Hi everyone. So we're at Unit 1, Lesson 4. We have the following book, you can follow along with it. So the SOL standard we will discuss in this PowerPoint, in this unit, in this lesson, is the one on the screen. You may read it and pause the video while you do. It's basically, can you identify where all these rivers are? The essential questions in this section are, what are the major bodies of water in the United States? And what are some ways bodies of water in the United States have supported interaction among regions and created links to other areas? So we're going to try to answer some of that just now. One of the ways bodies of water in the United States have supported interaction between regions is they have supported the transportation of immigrants coming to America on the Atlantic Ocean. Remember, we also talked about bodies of water were also the main thoroughfares of money making, since goods and services would travel faster on water in history. They were where all the money was made. And because of all this, because water was so important, places called ports established around water, and specifically places around water that were ideal both for ships being safe from the weather because it was a calm harbor, and for just influx of people. We'll talk about something called crossroads, and in this case, ports were crossroads. They were intersections where people started to meet, and goods, services, and ideas were flowing easily. So ports are where trade happened and cities flourished. Ports are a place where ships were loaded and unloaded. It was safe stopping place for ships. Another type of water feature was inlets or bays. And inlets are areas of water extending into land from a larger body of water. They are bigger than just rivers. So you can think of inlets as the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of Alaska, or Chesapeake Bay. Gulf of Mexico extends from the Atlantic Ocean. Gulf of Alaska extends from the Pacific Ocean. And Chesapeake Bay extends from the Atlantic Ocean. Another major water feature that we're going to talk about is the Mississippi River. It's the country's, United States' largest river, and it actually flows pretty slowly, so it enables easy ship passage, which means they're making more money. It flows from a source in Minnesota, so you might have learned in science that rivers flow north to south. Minnesota is north, it's a northern state, and it flows down to the Gulf of Mexico. The Mississippi River also has many tributaries, and this means rivers that branch off from the main one. Sort of the idea is that it's not just one river, but many rivers flowing into one. And because it's many rivers flowing into one, many tributaries flowing into a river. It's called a river system. It's a Mississippi River system. And river systems basically are bunches of rivers that carry water away from the land around it. So water flows from higher to lower elevations. You might have learned that in science class, but that kind of just makes sense with gravity. And the river systems sort of use that force to gather water and then carry it away. And in this case, the Mississippi River is important for United States history because of its main thoroughfare for goods and services. There's the Mississippi River. We'll also talk about the Missouri River, which is over to the left here, that goes into Yellowstone and Snake and Platte and Omaha. That's where the Mississippi River starts. Its source. That's the Missouri. And that's a major tributary of the Mississippi. Other major rivers. There's a river called the Ohio River. It was considered, and is still considered, a gateway path to the rest of the United States. And it's a gateway particularly because explorers would often use this river to go to the other lands in the United States. to travel, to explore. Other rivers we'll talk about is the Columbia River, Colorado River, Rio Grande, and St. Lawrence. The Rio Grande and St. Lawrence were important to the United States because they served for a longest time as our country's borders, meaning they divided our country from other countries. Columbia River was also used as a means of exploration by Lewis and Clark, and the Colorado River was explored by the Spanish. Here's a map of all the major rivers in the United States. We had the Columbia River was used as a river exploration by Lewis and Clark. Colorado River was explored by the Spanish. Rio Grande was the southern country border. St. Louis was another border. That's the Atlantic. That's the Pacific. That's a canal called the Erie Canal, which really serves to connect the Great Lakes to the Hudson River so that individuals could go from the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. Gulf of Mexico, Missouri. And now we're going to talk about the Great Lakes. Easiest way to remember is the acronym HOMES. Huron, Ontario, Montreal, Erie, Superior. And it's the largest chain of lakes in the United States. Has a lot of ports. Like we said, there's a canal that goes from Erie to the Hudson River to the Atlantic Ocean so that ships can go through and get into the middle part of the United States. And just before we move on, remember a canal means a man-made body of water that allows us to go from one place to another. It's kind of like a man-made river. So, as I said, these lakes are connected to the country by many rivers and are connected to each other. And there's one man-made river that we connected it to the Hudson Bay so that it can go to the Atlantic Ocean and get international shipping as well. So ports were developed on these lakes. Remember, when there's any sort of influx of ships and people, you get a lot of cities built and ports built, and these lakes were relatively shaped for ships. And there's a rule you can just think of. Where there's a river and easy ship passing, there's typically money to be made. Those are the lakes. Remember, it is HOMES, the acronym. And that's the lakes on a broader scale. So connecting the Great Lakes. In the past, these Great Lakes could not be connected to the Atlantic and Pacific, but we built a canal in 1825 to connect Lake Erie to the Hudson River. And I tried to show you where that canal was on the past map. And just the Atlantic, Pacific, and Gulf Coast of the United States, this is sort of an aside, had provided access in our history to other parts of the world. For example, if you think of Assassin's Creed 3, Edward Kenway and the pirate game, that was the Gulf Coast, and you saw all sorts of ships there playing the game, the Spanish, the English, that type of thing. So, before you go on, check your understanding of what you just learned by pausing the video and answering these questions on a map or on a piece of paper. There's a map you can use.